So I hope you join me for the second part. Alright, if the cut happened the way I think it happened, you should be watching the second part. And of that, I'm going to do a little bit of continuation on what I was saying about the point guard situation. So they went ahead and drafted Dante Exum, who was a nice player in Australia, although no one ever saw him, and came with a lot of hype. But they already have Trey Burke. Also, another factor is, even though they have Trey Burke, like I was saying earlier, Gordon Hayward just does everything for his team. He's second in the team in assists with 4.3, just behind Trey Burke at 4.7. So, if you already have, you just re-signed Gordon Hayward to a big contract, you already have Trey Burke, why get a third ball handler? Instead of focusing on maybe some of your other weaknesses, like maybe getting a little bit better defensive pieces, or getting more shooters, which I think they should do. It just seemed very interesting, but I think they know what they're doing. I think Quinn Snyder, I really like him as a coach. He's trying to build a foundation in Utah, and I think it's slowly starting to build. When you look at Atlanta with Mike Bodenhauser, who I think is an amazing coach, and when I get to the Hawks, I'll love to talk about him. Just, the whole goal is you want to try to build a system. You don't want to just get a coach who's going to come out and do everything he can to win, and we're going to win this year, and that's it. You want a coach who can build something in your city. You want someone who can build a philosophy, so that when free agents are looking, they know what they're getting into. When players have been there for over years, they know what to expect. They know their role, and they know how to work within it. I just think that's very important. And I think that's what he's starting to do in Utah. So even though maybe they didn't draft players I think they should have drafted, I think they're do okay. Like I don't like to say that just because of the West. I don't like to say that they're a bad team because they're ranked so low. I just like to think that they're a young team. I think that's key. That they're not a bad team, they're just a young team. And I think a young team is a dangerous team to play against.
Both shots good from the strike. Great focus at the free throw line. They're taking care of business. That's exactly how.
See, what do I think they're going to do the rest of the season? Well, I think trade-wise, I think they're going to stand pat. I think they realize that they're not going to make the playoffs. They're not going to go far this year. So why risk some long-term assets for a player who may not even help them? That being said, I don't think they should blow it up. I think they have some nice pieces. The only person who I think they could consider trading is Enes Kanter. Because, especially with the emergence of Rudy Gobert, with the already solidness of Derek Favors, and they do have some quality bench bigs with Trevor Booker providing that grittiness, that toughness, and Steve Novak providing the shooting. I think they're pretty set at the front court, and they might be able to flip Kanter for some good value. What would they do it for? Hard to say. Either a young guy who can play defense or a proven scorer. That'd probably be it. When you look at teams who need a backup center, I don't know. You can look at Golden State, but I don't think they really want to mess with anything. You can look at Trailblazers. Trailblazers might be interesting. They have Robin Lopez. They have Chris Kaman. Maybe they want to get a younger guy. Maybe since Kaman's a veteran and probably won't be playing in the league much longer, maybe you get a guy who's similar, a younger guy who's similar to him in Enes Kanter, and you give up, say, Darrell Wright, a solid three-point shooter who could really benefit. Who could really benefit playing on a team like Utah. He would be a backup behind Gordon Hayward, and I think he could provide some solid minutes and definitely some solid shooting, which would help out that second unit. Give another guy who can space the floor and a proven veteran scorer. So that might be a one-trade destination that might work. All right. Let's see who I'm losing. Alrighty, that was the first half. I think I got a lot of topics accomplished. Like happy about that. So as we get prepared for the second half, let's see, what more can I talk about? Let's see. See, I guess for the third quarter, I'll talk about a little bit about the history of the Jazz and a little bit about their future. History-wise, I won't go into too deep detail because that's not really what I want to do with this, but I'll give a little perspective.
Trying to slow him down any way possible, but he still got through. Easier said than done when he's the penetrator. His speed and agility.
All right. Well, Utah Jazz. If you really know the Utah Jazz, probably if you're aware of them, the most likely chance is because you know about their era in the 90s. That's how I know about them. I mean, but then you got the big three of Jerry Sloan, John Stockton, and Karl Malone. And that's the team everybody knows. You remember back to those finals against the Chicago Bulls, of them coming so close, and the infamous push-off. Did Jordan foul Byron Russell? I don't know. I don't like to talk about that. But I think, I mean, they were a solid, dominant team. And you had a team that played well under Jerry Sloan. He's a great offensive coach, great defensive coach. And he just had that team working in a great system. And of course, you had your two best players. You had John Stockton, easily one of the best point guards of all time. He still holds the record for most assists and most steals in the NBA. So that lets you know right there that he was not just about offense, he was also about defense.
You can hear the impact from where I am.
For Utah, they have been coming through at the charity strip. They've made 7 of their 8 attempts.
I mean, that's this kind of player he was. He was an all-around player. He wasn't the biggest, he wasn't the strongest, he wasn't the fastest, but he knew how to play, and he played the game well. Then you have Karl Malone. Big man Karl Malone, the mailman. And what he would do, he would just dominate. It became a lot easier with him and Stockton working together. It became one of the most deadly pick-and-roll combinations in the league. And you have Karl Malone, the second all-time leading scorer in the NBA. Prolific scorer. Both of them were on the fabled 1992 Olympic Dream Team, one of my favorite teams of all time. That whenever that special comes on NBA TV, I always record it because I always enjoy it. Such a cool documentary about one of the greatest teams in sports history. That changed the game so much, especially for international play. Really opened the doors for a lot of people. Great team. So mainly if you're talking about the past, you think of recent history. I know there's a lot of history, especially the fact that they're called the Utah Jazz because at one point they were located in New Orleans, which made a lot more sense than them being Utah. But I think they hold it off okay. So that's about the recent past. You know about that. Even a little more recent than that, you know about the next generation with Jerry Sloan, and he had Darren Williams and Carlos Boozer. I still remember those days, them playing together. And again, it was just like Stockton Malone 2.0. This time you had a bigger, stronger, more athletic point guard in Darren Williams, and he had a power forward who was a little more cleaner, had a little more shooting range, and Carlos Boozer. And I would say they were a great combination. And they really did much in the playoffs, but they were still an exciting team to watch and a tough team to play against, especially going in the Jerry Sloan system. But of course, things broke away with that team. Started with Darren Williams getting traded, and then Carlos Boozer signed a free agent for Chicago. And now that's where we get to current Jazz generation of a team who's kind of middling. They're in the lower half of the West. They've got a lot of young pieces, trying to build a foundation, trying to compete in a very, very tough Western Conference, which is easier said than done. What's in store for the future? I think, when I'm looking back at all the teams in the NBA, I think that Utah is poised most to make a next step and become like a Phoenix Suns, that team that's going to start challenging for those lower playoff spots, because they have the pieces. When you look at all the players in the roster, they're not bad players. They're just all young and developing. And they already have Gordon Hayward, who's starting to establish himself as that kind of second or third tier superstar. And I think he can really improve. And then I think Derek Favors is part of that future generation of big men. Like, when you look at him, I think you're really going to see a lot of power, a lot of strength, and just really start to take on that mantle of the next generation of big men. Obviously from the likes of Tim Duncan, Kevin Garnett, Dirk Nowitzki. You've got the current next generation of power forwards with his Kevin Love, Blake Griffin, LaMarcus Aldridge. But I think Derek Favors could be in that next generation of great power forwards. That is very exciting. So I think if Utah just kind of stays the course, keeps tweaking their roster, finding out which guys fit, which guys don't, and just focus on continuing to build together, continuing to work together, I think they could become a very nice powerhouse in the West. Will they be winning championships in the next 5 years? Probably not. It's hard to predict that. But I think definitely they'll be a team that could be reckoned with, and they're already a tough team to play as it is. And I think if they get their shot in the Western Conference, I think they can take advantage of it. Let's see, I guess that's more like the best case scenario. I guess we'll talk about worst case scenario, so that's always fun to do the little juxtaposition. Worst case scenario is easily Gordon Hayward gets frustrated. He wants to win and he demands a trade. I could see that. And then once he's gone, then the rest of the team kind of crumbles. You lose that glue guy, you lose that your leading scorer, second leading assist, a good rebounder. You're just losing your glue guy who does a little bit of everything. And so because of that, you're having to replace one guy, and it's hard to find another guy who's like that, so you start replacing him with multiple guys. So now instead of having one Gordon Hayward, you have a guy who can score pretty well, a guy who can rebound pretty well, a guy who can assist pretty well, and you're taking up roster spots with less talent. You're diluting your talent on your team. So once he goes, then I would assume that if he goes, Utah would jump on locking up Derek Favors. They would go at all costs to lock him up because they would see, like I think they see him, like I do, as a future really good big man in the league. So I think they would scramble to try to give him a contract. He probably would get overpaid. You'd probably get a lengthy, let's say, 4-year, $80 million, 4-year, $70, maybe just under the max, not quite the max. And that would really hamstring their team building options. I think that would force them to have to lose Rudy Gobert, which would be a big disappointment. They probably won't be able to sign key free agents. They'll have to just rely on the draft. So they'll keep getting younger, which is their problem. They're young. You need to get older. You need these guys to become veterans and start producing. But I think that'd probably be the worst case scenario. Gordon Hayward demands a trade. They overpay Derek Favors, and they hamstring the rest of their team. Alrighty. Let's see, I got 10 seconds left. Oh, I just said that. I'm just like Marv Albert. Oh, don't make that. Oh, I didn't. Alright. Excuse me. Alright, if I know how this is going to be put on YouTube, then in about a minute it's going to cut off. And I'll be taking up the rest of the fourth quarter, and that'll be it. So for that fourth quarter, what I'm thinking about doing is, in the future, if I get enough people interested in this, maybe I'll use this time to answer questions about specific topics. It could be about the team I'm playing against, or it could be about anything in the NBA. So I think that'd be cool to kind of do the fourth quarter as a little bit question and answer. But for now, for today, what I'm thinking about, and for the near future, for if I can't build a following, I will probably just talk about the game. I'll talk about the actual physical game I'm playing itself. Maybe talk about the team I have, the team I'm using, why I use them, stuff like that. So for now, I use the first. I think I like that format. I had the first quarter talked about the roster, second quarter talked about their standing, third quarter talked about a little past and present, and the fourth quarter will be about the actual game I'm playing. So when I return from this 15-minute break, you'll hopefully go to part 3, and Listen to me talk.
Now here's Evans.